Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you the Jimmy Doan Show. This is Counselor Curtis.
And this is Jimmy Doan.
That's right, we are live. This is YouTube. You could be watching us on YouTube.
Assuming my modem doesn't fake out like it does.
Either way, if you start to get the stream, you don't get a great copy, we'll have a new one up there in a few minutes. So, thank you for joining us. Today is the 17th of October, 2018.
And this is a Wednesday. We normally come 4 o'clock on Wednesdays and Sundays. 4 o'clock Eastern Time.
That's right. So what's happening?
Well, lots.
Lots is happening.
Well, it's interesting. There's continuation of stuff.
Yeah.
But before I get to that,
okay.
There were 2 notable deaths this week. Dennis Hoff. He died young. He was
the Bunny Ranch guy.
The Bunny Ranch. He owned apparently several of the houses of ill repute in Las Vegas. They owned about 4 or 5 of them, I think. He was only 66 years old.
Right.
And I think he was about that old, but he croaked.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been running as a libertarian, and he actually, in a very Republican district out there, apparently had a pretty good chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever his rural district in Nevada was.
Right.
So that's gone, and they don't know what's going to happen now. Is apparently whoever he was running against was an anti-prostitution person, I think.
No.
Yeah, in that area, if you can imagine, right? Put them all out of work.
Probably a Mormon or something.
Yeah, well,
or you can't say that.
I think it was a girl. I'm not sure, which is interesting. An ex escort. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Whatever. And the other one, of course, is Bill Allen.
Well, and they say that nobody ever died wishing they'd spent more time at work, but maybe that guy was an exception.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, he'd done pretty well. Apparently, he bought the ranches up and everything out there. And Bill Allen.
Yeah.
Co-founder of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Worth $20 billion when he died.
Not too shabby.
No, but can't take it with you.
No. But what you can do is you can spend it. You can philanthropize with it.
Well, apparently last year, according to some record, he gave away $100 million, which is a drop in the bucket. That's not even that's pocket change,
right?
Yeah, for him. But so you don't know. You can bet that Uncle Sam's going to try and swoop in on some of that.
Oh, sure. They'll try and get their 10 out of it. Their 10 Bs. But he was married, right? And did he have any kids?
To be honest with you, I forget. I think he was and did, yeah.
Right, so...
I mean, it seems only reasonable that the guy would have made some arrangements for trusts of some kind.
Sure. And usually what happens is that money gets distributed over a couple of generations.
Yeah, it does anyway, yeah.
Philanthropy.
As they say, it's shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. I can attest to that.
Well, I mean, there's no way, he can't guarantee that he's going to have his kid as brilliant as he is. So what is he supposed to do? I mean, and you give it away, and that's what's great about it. I mean, that's an American hero story from the standpoint of here's a guy who creates $20 billion out of thin air.
Yeah,
and now it goes back. It just,
well, as I say, eventually it's going to, the government's going to get it all anyways at some point over the next couple of generations.
Not even the government. I mean, it could be given out to private institutions.
Well, but they're going to pay taxes.
I mean, sure.
I mean, what I'm saying is the government, of course, never wants to wait. And of course, the money's already been taxed once anyway, and it's invested, of course, in some other money-generating, Seahawks and all that stuff. The death tax, of course, is interesting because people are going to jump on this and say, well, nobody should get that kind of money, and of course, my answer to that is everybody should.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? What's wrong with that? So anyway, co-founder of and died young of lymphonic cancer, I think, or something like that. It came back. He'd had some cancer problems, I think, in the past, but whatever. And all the money in the world couldn't save.
Yeah, I mean, guess we know there's no cure for that, right?
Well, I'll tell you, he would have pulled out all the stops for it. Now, speaking of deaths, Roseanne. Nearly 6 months after Roseanne ended its initial revival run and the volatile Roseanne bar crashed the now canceled show, the Connors now premiered last night. I think it was either last night or the night before, in hopes of turning tragedy into triumph, or at least a solid success. Well, of course, Roseanne wasn't there,
Right.
so they had to kill her off.
Right.
So, notable death. Guess how she died?
Yeah, I saw this.
Did you? Opioid.
Accidental overdose.
Yeah, well, was it accidental?
Yeah, the neighbor gave her some pills.
Okay. And opioid overdose. So they set the stage for now the 10 episode runoff. Now, interestingly enough, the audience share, while okay, was not anything like, it was 35% off from what it had been.
Yeah.
But it was like number 7 or 8 or 9 or something.
And I guarantee you half or 2/3 of these people tuned
Next
in just
week
to see what exactly.
You know, there's no question. The people that tuned in, yeah. I mean, I was reading some of the comments, and there were a bunch of people.
You can't do it. Look, she's the genius of the show. And look, I know they have awesome comics as writer. I think Norm Macdonald's a writer, and who's that other black girl who writes Wanda Sykes.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so I mean they've got good people who know what they're doing, but you just don't take out your #1 star.
No,
I mean,
no.
just-
And of course, yeah. And of course, I would guess now that it's probably become a little more liberal without the.
Oh my God! Well, just the storyline itself is.
It's destroyed. But the old one, the old storyline, which she's wearing a Trump T-shirt and everything.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's gone.
I didn't know that she did that in the story and stuff.
I think she was a big Trump. I think she wore a Trump shirt or something.
That's even better.
Yeah,
but
I could be wrong, but I mean, it was obvious that she was a Trump supporter.
Right. Well, and that's the way it should have been written. So I'm glad that they did that. To me, this is. The storyline, the new storyline is unaffordable medical care.
Okay.
That's how she died. She couldn't afford her so she borrowed the pills from the next door neighbor.
Okay. Well, that's sweet.
Yeah, exactly. This is
right. Well,
a little Medicare for all.
A little
push.
Medicare for all push, right? Well, I did not. That's good. I did not know that. Well, it's going to be interesting to see next week. What the ratings are going to look like.
Well, you're not going to be able to because it'll be canceled by next week, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry,
you could see if the ratings, drop into the single digits or lower.
It's just, it's like having All in the Family without Archie Bunker.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
No, you can't do it.
No,
it does not fly.
No.
Sorry.
So
it sucks that they crucified her on the altar. Also, they ate her lunch and people don't know and I didn't know this about her. She has some actually legit mental health issues.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt. I mean, that's what I heard too.
She was hospitalized at one time after a car accident where she had a brain injury.
Right.
So I mean, there is you can't punish somebody with the destruction of their career over a tweet. Because of
they've done it before. I
know.
I mean, it happens all the time. How about that one girl that was flying to South Africa?
Oh yeah, that poor girl. But she didn't even have a career beforehand. I mean, she was made and broken in the same flight.
That's right.
But Roseanne now, and of course Roseanne, I think she'll bounce back. I hope. There's got to be.
She's going to. Look, she's too smart.
It's like
even the king has a jester. That's right.
All right.
Okay, so now our neighbors to the north.
Yes.
As of today is
it's Smoke 'em Up Day.
That's right. If you got 'em, smoke 'em.
Canada goes green.
It becomes the first major industrialized country after, I guess,
Canada. After California?
No. Industrialized country. After, of course, one of our South American, starts with a U, also is legalized it, as has Portugal.
Uruguay?
Yeah, Uruguay, I think, and Portugal, I think. But they're not major industrialized countries. Canada, of course, Canada becomes the first major industrialized country to fully decriminalize cannabis for recreational. Now this starts like today.
Right.
And
already Canada's off the rails.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things that you might see is the
whole country shut down.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's just you'll see the mass migrations as the Hondurans and everybody else go through the United States
Yeah, right.
and go to Canada, because that's where the massive influx in Canada can be rather interesting. Now, I got a couple of little notes here, but it turns out that Canada has provinces, as you know. I forget how many. I'm not up on it, but it's got a half a dozen or more, and they're all apparently independent, like our states. They have independent rules on who can do what, and of course, concerns abound. Already, there are worries about a shortage of legal cannabis for sale in the early months of legalization. So, so there's going to be a black market, it looks like, for a while as people get it. And so it will no longer be illegal for adults to purchase, possess, or grow recreational cannabis starting today. In Ontario and the western provinces, the sale of cannabis is left largely to licensed privately operated retail outlets, but in Quebec and most eastern Canadian provinces, marijuana will be sold in state-run stores, which of course means the price goes up, that kind of stuff. So the only way to buy in Ontario, the most populous province, the only way to buy legal pot as of today will be by mail order, because permits for private outlets are not expected to be issued until next spring, after recently elected Premier Doug Ford decided to reverse earlier plans to sell cannabis through government-owned stores. So I'm not sure what that is, but it's interesting that it's going to take them 6 months to get the permits.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think somebody could go back in the back room and issue the permit.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning.
Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, right.
Stamp them out.
Well,
as you said, it's a big. Look, this is a money grab. This is a big. We got to set the bureaucracy in place. We got to get the money changers in there. We got to get the laminators and the picture takers and the categorizers, everybody there, so that when they start selling this stuff, they can collect their cash.
Yeah. And of course, that's what's happened in, I guess to some extent in California, is that the taxes are so high that the black market is still.
Well, as we talked about on a couple of our shows, they did a huge wave, a big administrative wave, which regulated and cut back on like 50% of their growth, and just a devastating regulatory wave that is absolutely, like you said, a boon to the black market, because it just reinvigorates the whole thing.
Right.
I mean, it's
well,
amazing.
that's what, you think about it. When you think about it, of course, it is fascinating. Gambling is another one of those things. For instance, as anybody will tell you, you watch the lotto ads, for instance. I've talked about this before. The expected rate of return is 33 cents on the dollar. If you gamble, in other words, on the long haul, you do the lotto, the $1 lotto, 1,000 times, you're going to get $333 back. Is what it is. That's the long-term expected value. Interestingly enough, the runners, the numbers runners, that a lot of people that I remember when I was growing up, my nanny used to play the numbers almost every day. It was what it is. What you do is you pick. It's three numbers. It's from 1 to 1,000, 1 to 999, and you three numbers. And I forget what it is. I think it was the last three numbers of the closing Dow, or something like that. So that was pretty much random. But the payoff was 66%. That is so. But what I'm saying is, if you bet a dollar. Every time you bet a dollar, your expected rate of return was 66 cents.
I got you.
But of course, what would happen is on the day that your three numbers would hit, you'd get hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And so, but in the long haul, of course. So, but my point is, the Florida lottery doesn't even do as good as the illegal number runners.
No, illegal.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They
that's the only way. The only way that Florida lotto can survive is to outlaw.
Right.
The other guys.
Right. This is another one of those areas